Hello and welcome to Dinim number 18. I am your host, Rabbi David Katz. This is part 2 from class number 17, which was part 1. If you don't remember what was said in class 17, part 1, then stop listening to this and go back to YouTube and listen to class 17, part 1, and then return to listen to this. I myself had to go back to 17, part 1, as we just experienced, off camera, off microphone. All right, it's been a long time since I put this together. We missed a week because I was sick. That's why I'm a bit not exactly remembering where we're at. And I'm actually just getting over the sickness. Not fun. Not fun at all. Let me just look at my notes for 1 second. In fact, I'll say out loud what I anticipate we're going to cover. This is my note to self, but if you want to take notes or listen, whatever it is. A lot of times in rabbinic writings, we see the phrase "sarich iyam," which literally means you need to look it up. You need to look inside. You need to properly investigate. And we need to define, when it says sarachim, we need to define that. That's just kind of like my note to self. Now in our riddle that we said, or the question, can a non-Jew learn Torah beyond his 7? Everyone agrees that they can learn 7, do 7, talk about 7. Once you go beyond 7, this is where you're going to get so many different answers and angles by the rabbis of tradition. Then you got to look it up, and that's really called sarachim. You have to look inside. You can't just look at one opinion and say you got it. A real problem is we have many rabbis that are not looking it up, and they think, remember last time we talked about what is a rabbi, right? So today's rabbi thinks he's a real rabbi. I'm a rabbi, he says, and therefore I know the answer because I'm a rabbi. Well, that used to be true, but this generation is not rabbis of the same caliber. Today's rabbi is meant to look it up. And we gave that whole discourse last week. So let's see what I got in my notes. Again, I'm just kind of talking out loud, but you need to hear it anyways. We need to look up Chagiga. I think it's 13a, I said. The non-Jew learning Torah, whatever that is. Our famous Rambam 10.9, Hilchos Malachim. The goy that learns Torah is Chayav Misa. We're going to go over a rabbinic idea from that. Talking about Shabbos and learning Torah together. Where we know that a goy cannot keep Shabbos. We talked a little bit about that last time. Malacha from the goy. Rambam again about being Chayav Misa. Shabbos and Torah together as the thing. The Malbim, the Miri, and then this is where it took a turn. The Tosfos HaRush, a stumbling block before the blind. That's where it got. That's it. the verse in Tehillim. If anyone can figure out how to bring up Chagiga 13a, please do so. Rabbi Ami, Ein Meisrin, Divrei Torah, La'oved Kaychavim, Shenamar. Rabbi Ami. Thank you, Jacques. After you made me suffer for an hour trying to find that. Rabbi Ami further said, the teachings of the Torah are not to be transmitted to an idolater. Right? And what is our Hebrew term for idolater? Everyone type in. When it says idolater, what is that? Let's go. Everyone type it in there. You heard me say it. What is it? Akum. Isn't that already a Kiddush, guys? Think about that. Think about what we just did in 10 seconds worth of work. Go ask anybody in the Torah world, I state your name, Goy Johnny X. Can I learn Torah? They'll all say no, type 1. And then you say, can you explain that? And they'll say, yeah, a Goy cannot learn Torah. They have no idea which Goy it was. Even if they saw it in English, which most of them will do. An idolater. They don't know what is an Ovid Kochvim. It took me years to gain familiarity in knowing the distinctions of Nochri, Akum, Goy, Eino Yehudi. That's really the lock on the door, if you want my opinion on that. You really have to have seen the usage about 1 billion times. Because there's no dictionary to go to. What is an Akum? What is a Nochri? I mean, there are those dictionaries, but even that. Until you're familiar with that kind of academic approach is a Chiddush. Where do we know that a Goy cannot learn Torah? Does anybody know the answer? Where did the rabbis get this from? Eric Bryan, you should know better than that. You just heard me tell Ari Lewis last night in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, chapter 6, halacha 4. Did the rabbis write that Pirkei Avos Mishnah? Type no. Where did they get it from? King David, right? And they repackaged King David's idea. So what is the very next thing after you cannot teach Torah to an idolater? Jacques got it. It comes from King David. For it is said, he hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his ordinances, they have not known them. Lo aseken lekol goy mishpatim bal yidum. Okay, so there's your answer. King David said it, and the rabbis interpreted it, Lefim Shuto, to be Akum cannot learn Torah. We're going to look up King David. Don't worry about that. So now, we have a problem that it's not so simple to say that you just can't teach a Goy Torah. Is that correct? And the other question is, what kind of Torah is it that we cannot teach the Akum? Does anyone know? What are we not allowed to teach the Akum? The answer is, after it says, Ein Meisrin Divrei Torah, in my Gemara, there's a note. It says, go to Gimel, bracket Rashi, and he says, look in the Marsha. You guys want me to look in the Marsha? What do you think? Look in the Marsha? Because we don't know what Torah is. Do you guys know what Torah is? I don't know what Torah is. Do you know? Does anybody know what Torah is? I don't know. This is our favorite question for the party liners. They don't want you to ask that question. What do you mean by Torah? You can't teach Torah to an Akum, if you even know that it says Akum. That'll get them real excited. Let's find out what Torah is. There's something called Torah that you cannot teach to an Akum whenever he is. Correct? I don't know what an Akum is, and I don't know what Torah means. Ein meister divrei Torah la'avdei kochevim. Lo ka'amar ein melamdim Torah la'avdei kochevim. Ready for this? That's probably, let's see, Eric. I think that's what it is. Let me see. Ready? Hold on. Let's reevaluate our positioning here. I'm tired of turning my neck and talking into the side of my head. Okay, do you guys know who the Marshal was? He's one of my favorite guys of all time. Now you know who the Marshal was. Does everybody now know who the Marshal was? He is one of the best name brand commentators to the Talmud, especially in Agadata. He really is the gold standard. He's got a different function than your Rashis out there. He really is a great commentator. He explains the idea. He explains it by just telling you what it is. So you see why I went to him? We had a question. What is Torah? And he says, the Talmud says, did you ever think to look in the Marsha? We go to the Marsha, and he says, hey, let's find out what Torah is. Lo ka'amar. Ein melamdim Torah la'avdei kochevim. It does not say, do not teach Torah to Akum. Well, that's interesting. Didn't it say that? Amar Rebbe Ami, Ein Meistrin Divrei Torah la'avdei kochevim. Everyone see that? The Talmud says, literally, we do not give over something called words of Torah to Akum, based on Tehillim type 1. The Maharsha says, did you notice that it didn't say we don't teach? It said we don't give over words of Torah. Why did you say we don't teach? Who gave you permission to say we don't teach Goyim Torah? Why would you say that? No one ever said that. Did anyone ever say that? No one ever said that. Absolutely. The 7 mitzvahs of them, you teach them. So why did you ever say don't teach them Torah? No one ever said that. Ubashar mitzvahs at Torah, oivid kochevim halayim eid oiseh chayev misa. This is that weird note that I saw that I made. Meisrin Torah Inyan Mitzvahs. Sod V'Taima. Oh yeah, that's where I got that from. Very good. Rabbi Katz actually did his homework. You want to hear a big Kiddush? Ela dahacha nilmad me'inyano. De'ein maestrin la'ayvei klechavim. What does it mean then that we don't give over words of Torah to Akum? Isn't that the real question? Hainu tam v'sod ha-mitzvahs v'afilu b'zayin mitzvahs shilhen ein moisrin lehem soydin v'taimen v'alzeh ma'isi le mikra d'ksiv. And on that we have the statute from King David. Now, everybody has mitzvahs, whether it's 613 or 7. But do you give over the sod and reason of the Indian? And that's what Tosfos is saying. Now let's go look at Tosfos. Here's our friend Tosfos. The Marshan knew what he was talking about. Tosfos is going to say, what does it mean we don't give over words of Torah to Akum? Haya kashe. That's a problematic statement. The oivid koikvim ha'isik b'toyre chayav misa. So there's your language of being oisik b'toyre, deeply involved in Torah, is chayav misa. K'da amar b'perik dalid mises oivid koikvim. He's quoting Sanhedrin 59a, ha'isik b'toyre chayav misa. V'hamalandu oiver alifnei Iver lo titin mikshul. Wow, so Tosfos is saying something even greater. And this is what I said over in my notes. I'm going to put all this together for you. Don't worry. Remember I said in last week, is it a problem of an Akum learning Torah? Type 1. Type 1. Or is it that I am forbidden to teach an Akum? Type 1. Meaning you are an Akum and you can't learn? Or is it that I cannot, as a Jew, teach an Akum? Or 3, if I, the Jew, teach the Akum, am I putting a stumbling block before the blind? Type 1. Or as the Rambam says, it's stealing. Type 1. Do you hear the problem? No one knows why the Akum cannot learn Torah. We know that he can't, but we don't even know what learning Torah means. We don't know what Akum means. We don't know why he can't learn Torah. You see all the problems we have? That's called Sorach Iyun. Now, is it a question if Johnny X goes to his rabbi in Smallville, Dakota, and he says, my name is Johnny. Can I learn Torah, Rabbi? And the rabbi says, no, you're a goy. You don't want to know what that's like? That's like gibberish. That is a non-question and a non-answer. And those two guys will convince you that they had a conversation about Torah nonetheless. Do you see how this is problematic? Now, somewhere, there's a human being who cannot do something. And there's another human being who also cannot do something. And those human beings got together once upon a time. One of those humans is a normative Jew. Anything beyond that, we don't know what that story looks like. Do you know what that story looks like? Because I don't. We don't know who the Jew was talking to. And we don't know what that person was asking the Jew to learn. And we don't know what that Jew was theoretically going to teach. Doesn't that make all the difference? The key tema is Zion mitzvahs didahu the ino chayev misa kedamar shas hasam v'ha mitzvah ika l'moisram lehem. Why is it wrong for this, again, Lafib Shuto, okay? Here, Jacques, why do we say Lafib Shuto? It's called safe language, and I think we just found a big so, Jacques. Why does Lafib Shuto exist? It allows you to speak improperly for the sake of speaking. Here's the example. You ready? Lafib Shuto. Everyone type Lafib Shuto. A Jew can teach a goy his 7 mitzvahs. Jacques, you chop why that's Lafib Shuto? I have to say something. We know that a Jew can teach a goy 7 mitzvahs. Eric, Brian, do you see now why the Talmud is written in Lafib Shuto? It's called unrefined on purpose. And then people take the unrefinement and they call it refined. It's almost like a rough draft. Once upon a time, Eric was in his mother's stomach, type 1. And when Eric's mother would eat dinner, she would say to the man in her life, honey, do you think the baby liked eating that dinner tonight? And the man in the picture said, yes, honey, I believe it did. Should Eric's mother then, by the time Eric is 25 years old, refer to him as the baby? As if there was never a name to that child named Eric? He is just to remain the baby. And they speak generically about this child. Honey, do you think the baby would like one day, theoretically, to go to school with crayons? All right, that conversation never happened, did it? By that time, the baby grew up and got a name and a life and meat on the bones. The Talmud is in the womb. You understand the analogy? The Talmud is in the womb. It never left. And yet people speak about it like it has, how do you say that? I lost my train of thought. The Talmud never left the womb. People talk about it like it left the womb. There. It doesn't work. I have to be able to say, right, like it matured. Exactly. It's immature. It's mohin the katnut. And they make it like it's mohin the godlut. The question is, a Jew can teach a goy Torah, or better yet, about his Zion mitzvahs. Lafib Shuto. Remember, I don't know when I said that, a Jew can teach a goy his 7 mitzvahs. Remember, I don't know what a goy is, and I don't know what 7 mitzvahs are, and I don't know what Torah is. Because the rabbi that said it, where did he get it from, Eric Bryan? Copied and pasted. It's called Masorah. Given over. Copy and paste. a goy who learns Torah is like a goy chayav misa. Copy and paste. So I just heard that, and then I said, so a goy that learns Torah is chayav misa. Copy and paste. What's the chiddush, Eric? That when I got the copy and paste job, I actually received the Torah A in its Iker format, and I didn't realize it. Because I only heard it and said it Lafi Pshuto. So once upon a time, Eric and I were walking down the street, type 1. And Eric said, if we could just find a burger place, I'm getting kind of hungry. When I'm in moron man mode, 30 seconds later, I say to Eric, oh, hey, Eric, there's a cab. Let's catch the cab and go to the city next door and go buy baseball cards. Type 1. Why is Eric now mad at Rabbi Katz? I received the Masorah. I got the copy and paste. I even said, yeah, man, me too. Right? Eric said, I'm hungry. I said, yeah, me too. Let's go get a cab and go buy baseball cards. Yeah, I didn't copy. You're actually hungry. Oh, you mean, Eric, you're actually hungry? Like don't get the cab? We have to go eat now? Oh, so you mean hungry is a word? Is hungry a real word? You were actually hungry and hoping we would stop and get that hamburger shop? You actually thought that? So Eric is a person who actually eats. He's not a robot that can just go nonstop. He has no needs. So then when you receive the tradition, then you can start to break it down. A goy that learns Torah, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it said akum. Oh, what is an akum? I.e. not ger. Huh? So we cannot teach goyim Torah, yet we do teach goyim Torah. The Tosfos says that's a contradiction, and we're talking in Lafi Pshuto. Jacques and Eric, we now have resolved Lafi Pshuto. Is that a 1? How do you know a goy can learn Torah? Jacques, please post the verse from Vayikra 18. I forget what verse it is. It's the Kohen Gadol verse. That you will do them, man, and live with them. I forget which verse it is. If you can find it, please post it. That is the source a goy can learn Torah. What is the drasha? Kohen and Levi did not say there. Rather, Adam. That even in Ovid Koichavim, in Akum, in Isaac, in Torah, Yesh Lomar Dahacha Mayri Afilu Hecha Deika Ovid Koichavim Acher, Shirotzi Lelamdu, the Leika Lifnei Iver. Moishi Koyas Yayin Lenazir Iver Milifne Iver Ahani Mile Dekai Atrey Avera de Nahara de Balav Shabalav Netino Ev Sharlavio Alav Aval Elav Hachi Eno Iver Alifne Iver Hachanami Afilu Bakom She Iver Kochavi Macher Writes in the Landu. The Leika Lifnei Iver Mekom Makom Aser Mishum Megi Divra Yaakov. So there are certain times when you can teach in Akum, and it is not considered a stumbling block before the blind. And then in Tosfos says, even if you want to say that it is not a transgression of stumbling block before the blind, you still can't do it because King David said not to do it. Did King David say not to do it, or was that Lefim Shuto again? That was Lefim Shuto again. Do you see how Tosfos is handling vessels in Lefim Shuto every time? I'll give you an analogy. How many of you have ever heard of American football? How many of you have ever seen the quarterback receive the ball in American football? And then how many of you seen the quarterback throw the ball quickly, 50 yards into the hands of a receiver, into the touchdown? And then the receiver quickly gives the ball to the referee. In that entire process, did anybody really have control of the football? The ball was on the ground. The center quickly moved it between his legs. The quarterback grabbed it by his fingertips, hurled it in the air into the hands of the fingertips of a receiver, and then he gave the ball to the referee. Right. Nobody really had control of that ball. Now, for the contrast, how many of you have ever watched a baseball game? How many of you have ever seen a pitcher getting ready to pitch the ball? Before the pitcher pitches the ball, does he have control of that baseball? 100% yes. No pitcher ever dropped the baseball and said, oops. When the catcher catches the ball, assuming that it hit the middle of the mitt, does he control the ball? Yes. No one ever watched the catcher drop it and say, oops. Because you have a big mitt on your hand. Tosfos is according to the football analogy. Copy and paste, receive the copy and paste, and move it around without ever analyzing the Iker. That's Tosfos. Rashi defines for you the Iker. Tosfos then takes that Iker and maneuvers it Lefim Shuto. Kabbalah is the analyzing of the Iker. The Iker in Lefim Shuto is a non-dusted off gemstone. We call that Torah of Shem. How many of you have ever worked in retail? You know my friend Todd taught me? Well, Todd is a Ger and he doesn't know he's a Ger. You know my friend Todd taught me? When you're dealing with change, do you know how to tell if you receive through somebody a valuable quarter? Like a 1925 quarter? You know how to tell? It does not look different. Your eyes are not that good. It jingles different. Because when usually you receive a bunch of change at one time, and you can hear a different jingle in the coins when it's an old one. And then you look at it and you see it's different. Now, if you're just counting your register, you have what's called a bunch of quarters, correct? That's like Lefim Shuto, non-valuable. But there's something called an Iker quarter. It's called a valuable coin. Because aren't coins supposed to have value? So sometimes you actually get a valuable coin. You see how Lafib Shuto is the same way? A Ger Toshav is someone who eats levela. That is a regular, boring quarter. When you hear the jingle, oh, you mean Ger Toshav is an Iker is defined by eating levela. You just heard the Ger jingle, and now you know it's an Iker term, and now it's not copy and paste job, it's actually a defined Iker term. Yet Tosfos can treat it like a regular quarter, because when your boss receives the bag of quarters from you, it might not matter to your boss if there's a 1927 quarter in that bag. Is that correct? They probably just don't care, and it doesn't matter. It only matters if you make it matter. Either it's a bag of quarters, or it could be a bag of quarters with a valuable quarter inside. It doesn't matter, or maybe it does. All right, so we did the Marsha. We did Taisus. All Taisus is saying is we can teach them their 7 laws, and there's reasons to think we cannot teach them. Beyond that. And Tosfos doesn't really give a clear answer. The Marsha, one second. The Marsha said we don't give over the secret of the mitzvahs. Hold on. And the Marsha is saying that's what Tosfos is saying. Let's see if we can find that in Tosfos. Right. Tosfos ends with the King David statement. And King David apparently is going on the secrets of the Torah. That's Psalm 147. There's a 20. Look at that. Look in Shemos Rabbah, Parsha 30, B'maisa. You guys want to do extra credit learning? Shemos 30. Midrash Rabbah. And I'm not sure we'll find it. It doesn't say which part in 30. How far is 30? It's kind of long. Kind of long. Let me give it a quick go. I'm not promising anything. Actually, let me look for our King David verse. Maybe that's going to be there. He's saying look for Achilles. I think Achilles is Onkelos, if I'm not mistaken. We got some Ger stuff over here. That's kind of interesting. There it is. That's our thing. That's pretty fun. All right, ready? We found some Ger Torah. Would you believe that? Do you guys think I'm lying about that? That's also a question. Could I be lying? Stranger things have been presented that I am making this stuff up. So this is Shemos Rabbah, chapter 12, or 30:12. Davar achir, Elam mishpatim. Yeah, this is our King David verse. Hadahu d'ksiv, Tehillim 147:19. Magi dvarav Yaakov. Pamachas amar lo Achilas la'adronis. Hamelech. Rotza ani lehi kayer ulehe asos Yisrael. I want to become a ger. And to be part of Israel. Amar lo la'uma zo atama vakesh kama baziti osa kama haragati ota leruda sheba umas atavakesh lisarev. You want to mix in with Israel? A nation that I make fun of? What do you see that you want to lehit gayer, that you want to become ger? Amar lo akatan shebehem yodea eich barak baruch hu es ha'olam. Even the smallest of them knows that God created the world. Ma nivra b'yom rishon, ma nivra b'yom sheni. What happened on the first 2 days? Kama yesh kishenivra ha'olam v'alma ha'olam oimed v'torah san emes. On what the Torah stands on, and the Torah is truth. Amar lelech ulamed Torah san va'al timul. Go learn Torah from them. Va'al timul. I think it means and don't circumcise. Amar lo Achilas afilu chacham shebimalchuscha v'zakin b'mea shana. Eino yachol min Torah san imeino mal. Shekain kasuv Magi dvar liYaakov chukam mishpatav liYisrael lo asakain lakol goy ulamila b'nei Yisrael. So Onkelos is saying that the king said, go learn Torah, but don't circumcise. And Onkelos says, the verse in King David, he wants to say that the verse in King David is only talking to Bnei Israel. Now the question is, Eric Bryan, is Bnei Israel the children of Israel or people who are joined to Israel as an Ger term? And obviously a ger can solidify through bris milah. We know that. It's not required, but it ends the charades. Lech lamed Torah san, klamar ayim b'tachila yafar Torah san kodesh sheyitimol, v'im yir lecha b'vadai ki ein safek misa sa'es idikayer. Oh, that's what he was saying. Go learn Torah before you do bris, and if you like it, you can do a bris. She'ir shalavin sitrei Torah rak So Onkelos responds, I will not understand the Torah, the Sitrei Torah, which is the Kabbalah, only to Bnei Israel. So when the king says, go learn before you become Jewish, Onkelos is saying That's not possible. Remember the Nochri Shabbos deal, right? The Nochri doesn't know about Shabbos. The Bnei Yisrael were taught about Shabbos and Torah, type 1. The Nochri has to lose his Nochriism. This is the same idea. The question that Onkelos is having with himself is, do I convert and join Judaism, or do I attach and there to be that separation? Remember how we're talking about that, right? It's like, do you want the return? Whereas converting isn't really true to the process. This is fantastic. I guess this is really I guess this is the Ger dilemma, is it not? Onkelos really is the Ger. You tell me. This seems like this is the dilemma. Yeah. But again, it answers our question about what kind of Torah and what King David is talking about. We now have a superconscious position. We're talking about the Torah's absolute essence. That the Jewish people are, exactly. The Jewish people are unaware of it. That you need Ger to get it. Or better yet, as Eric and I were talking earlier, the mazel is always there. It's just people about Jews, they're unaware of it. Let me see where we are in our notes. Let me calculate until this point too. So that level of Torah, you don't teach Akum. And if an Akum tries to go for that, that's stealing, or because he's Akum, or because the Jew cannot give that to Akum, or because it's putting a stumbling block for the blind. Remember the Nochri is the blind? Let me see where we are in our notes. All right, we did Chagiga, did Sarahian, we did Kabbalah, Akum. You know, a goy that learns Torah is like a Kohen Gadol, type 1. You know, there's 2 versions of that. One is a goy, Akum, or Nochri. There's different versions of that each time. And another version is Ger. Do you see the difference? There's a big difference. A Nochri is someone converting. A Ger is someone not converting. Either way, this non-Jew learns Torah. And Torah is defined by mitzvah knowledge. So learning Torah regular is not in the prohibition. Number 1, it's Kabbalah, and it's Kabbalah as relates to mitzvahs. And it's Dafka talking about the Akum, which is Goy Nochri. The Rambam says the Goy that learns Torah is Chayav Misa. He uses the word Goy. And he does, you know what? I'm actually giving that Lafim Shuto, aren't I, Jacques? What does the Rambam say? What does the Rambam say? I don't even think I'm quoting it right. Goy she'asik b'toyra chayav misa, lo ya'asuk elo b'sheven mitzvahs. See that? It is not a goy that learns Torah as chayav misa, is it, John? Goy she'asik b'toyra. Osek means heavily involved. Lo ya'asuk elo b'sheven mitzvahs. Hey, Eric, was the Rambam a Kabbalist? Because he's quoting the Gemara, and the Gemara is quoting Kabbalah. So the Rambam is in unison with Tosfos, Marsha, and Chagiga. Hey, do you think they copy and pasted from the same source? What do you think about that? Do you think that they copied and pasted from the same source, and they're just using their own words to describe the same thing? So how can it be that some Acher Achron from Sfat/Modin is making this up when all I am doing is copy and pasting, they're copy and pasting? Just a little side jab there. Meaning there are no other views on this. There is no such thing as a machlokas on this. They are all saying the same thing. All of them. Because they all copied and pasted from the same place. In the same Lafim Shuto. And then you see how I am the problem. Because I'm just as bad by saying a goy that learns Torah. Because I spoke in Lafim Shuto, Jacques. But if you would really look into it, you'd see it doesn't say learn, does it, Eric? It says goy she'esik b'torah chayav misa. Now it's called copy and paste. Copy and paste. And you go and look it up, it's an Iker. I gave it over as Lafim Shuto, and when I explain it in English, I will explain it wrong every single time. Because everybody that explains in English explains it wrong every single time. You want to know why, Eric? Because there's no English words for Goy she'esik b'toyra chayav misa. That's why Art Scroll does what they do. There's no English satisfying Goy she'esik b'toyra chayav misa. So I'll just say a goy that learns Torah. But that's Lafim Shuto double. So if I just quote it, an Iker is the, Eric, can you type in lexicological definition? Define the lexeme of Iker, please. Eric Bryan, please define the lexeme of Iker. So whenever you hear in English, you need to realize that it is a twofold Lafim Shuto scam. Because it can, by definition of English, it cannot be more than what it is. McDonald's is just not gourmet. It's not ever going to be gourmet. How many of you have ever seen a picture of McDonald's and thought, hey, that hamburger looks really good? Type 1. Type 1. Guess what? It wasn't that good. You know why it wasn't that good? Because you're stuck in Lafim Shuto, copy and paste. You ordered a nasty hamburger, you put it in your hands, and you swallowed it. All you did was you hiked the football and tossed it in the end zone. You did not stop with full possession and realize what you were ingesting. It is not gourmet. It would probably be in your best interest to keep it Lafim Shuto, wouldn't it? You don't really want to know what you're swallowing with that one. But if you wanted to go for the Iker, when it says sodium nitroxate or whatever the lingo jargon is, and you look it up and find out what you're eating, you probably don't want to eat that. But if you told your friends, hey, Loretta, what did you do today? Oh, I had a great hamburger for lunch. Well, thank you for your English Lafib Shuta, Loretta. Loretta had a great hamburger for lunch, Lafib Shuta. If you said it in its real words, then it would be a different story. All right, so we saw the Rambam. Do you see how we are removing the guesswork from Torah? I'd say this class probably was the best example yet of really clarifying the transfer of domain, vessel to vessel, of this thing called Torah, how we receive it in one state, we can internalize and reveal it in a deeper state. This is just a nice idea that I saw a long time ago. For those that have a problem with Goyim doing more than 7, as people like to say, you can't do more than 7, you only have 7, right? Type 1, you only have 7. 7 is the requirement, type 1. Are you required to do anything more than 7? Type 2. How many of you know what the word require means? Lafib Shuto. You don't need to do a Merriam-Webster. Lafib Shuto. Do you know what require means? How many of you know what the word allowed means? How many of you realize that the word allowed is a made-up word? It's called Lafib Shuto. Why did I just say that, Eric Brian? Why am I saying my English now all of a sudden took a nosedive? Because the real word I couldn't say. What's the real word? Reshut. Reshut. Reshut means allowed or permissible in Lafib Shuto lexicon jargon. The real word is reshut. Yeah. If Eric Bryan was staying in my home and he said, Rabbi Katz, I'm hungry, I would say, Eric, mi casa, su casa. You have reshus to go to my refrigerator 24/7 and you don't need to ask first. That is called reshut or reshus, type 1. Now, let's make a fake game out of this. In staying in my house, Eric is not allowed to eat my kids' cookies, type 1. There's 7 types of cookies that I buy for my kids, and I keep them in the closet, type 1. Is Eric allowed to eat any one of the 7 cookies in the pantry? But is Eric allowed with reshus to eat out of the refrigerator? So that's the same analogy. If Eric emailed me saying, Rabbi Katz, can I stay at your home? Yes, you can stay in my home, but you're not allowed to eat any of my kids' food. Does that mean that Eric cannot eat? You can do 7, which means there are 7 things you cannot do. You cannot kill, you cannot steal, yada, yada. Are there things that you can do? The answer is yes. Now here's how you say the question deeper. Ready? Does a Noahide have to learn Torah? Can a Noahide learn Torah? See the difference? That's the whole difference. Now do you see why you cannot teach a goy the Kabbalah of his mitzvahs? And why it's putting a stumbling block before the blind? I'll give you a perfect example. You ready? Somebody teaches a Noahide. Hi, Noahide Johnny X. Good to meet you. You're a nice Noahide. You're an Akum. You have 7 mitzvahs, Johnny. Type 1. Johnny, let me tell you about your 7 mitzvahs. That really is jargon for Malchus. Malchus has nothing of its own. So when you do your mitzvahs, you have to know what it means that Malchus has nothing of its own. That's how you do your mitzvahs. Did I help Johnny? Actually, I put a stumbling block before the blind for Johnny. Johnny does not have to know Kabbalah issues to do his 7 mitzvahs. And the Ger term is has to know. I.e., Johnny can't do 7 laws unless he knows Kabbalah, assuming the teacher of Kabbalah knows what he's talking about. Now, does that mean Johnny, or better yet, can we say, is Johnny allowed to pursue the spiritual inclinations of his mitzvahs? Yeah. But Johnny should not make it an obligation. I cannot move forward unless I know the Kabbalah of my mitzvahs.